Hello, Wastelanders. Vlad here, and today I want to talk about Fallout Worlds and how it introduces a new multiverse into Fallout 76 for you and your characters. Let's jump on in. So here we are. We are on the new game mode selection screen of Fallout 76, where we have Adventure and Private Adventure, which are the game modes we're used to. Then we have this Happy Builder Bethesda created custom world, and then we can create our own custom world. Now, selecting this for the first time, you're going to be asked to create a name for the world. Later, if you decide to delete this, it will ask you if you do really want to move forward, and it'll ask you to re-enter the name of the world just to be sure that you really want to delete it. Now, workshop, we have some settings that we can change here. We can turn on free building, which means you don't have to use your scrap to build inside your camp or a workshop. Camp power, you can make it to where it's always powered, where you don't need generators or wires. Workbench crafting, you make that free. Again, no scrap needed. Camp height, you can make this really high or really low. I'm choosing nuclear. Camp placement, we can make it to where we can place camps anywhere, or we can put it with minimal restrictions or just our default settings from the adventure mode. Camp radius, we can make that really high or really low. Camp budget, we can make it to where it's almost non-existent, or we can make it to where you have it very high. And then we can turn on relaxed building restrictions, which mean that your building is more like in a shelter. Then we have some other settings under combat, and this is where we get into things like PvP and stuff. Equipment, you can make that to where it is invincible or extremely weak, and different settings in between. Turn on or off legendary effects. If proximity enemy spawn, this is just random enemy spawns next to characters in the game. VATS and melee costs, again, you can set it to costing nothing or going to really high and a couple different levels in between. So we can also set the difficulty of the mobs in the game. We can set PvP to being always on if you want a PvP server. You can make it never if you don't want anybody coming in and killing you. Dismemberment, you can turn that on and off. It's like bloody mess, body parts flying around. Ragdoll behavior, will things go flying really far when you hit them. Infinite ammo, you can turn that on or off. There's also a setting where you still have to reload, which I think is a good option. Damage received means that, are you going to take high damage, low damage from other enemies and players? And damage dealt, you can change that from this default setting to either taking really high damage, really low damage. And then under general, we can set whether we drop additional loot when we die, such as things like stim packs and meds, things like that. Nuked floor, you can make it seem like everything was nuked, and you can collect flux without having to drop a nuke. Weather, there's several different settings here. You can play around with them. And there's also things like Quantum Storm, which is new, that didn't exist in the game before. And then we have some settings for jumping, which like setting the AP cost for jumping, how high you can jump, and you can make it like you have frog legs mutation from nuclear winter and jump really high. You can set whether your power cores drain really fast or really slow or never for your power armor. You can set visual filters so you can make it seem like you're looking through and you're on some sort of chem all the time. Fast travel, you make that free or non-existent. You can make all the map locations appear on everybody's map, even if they've never visited. And you can set the fall damage for jumping off cliffs or high buildings. So those are the basic settings we have right now with the launch of Fallout Worlds. We can also set up a description for our new world, and this is just so that your friends trying to enter your world know what you're kind of going for here, or you can create a backstory with role play, that type of thing. And then we can set up a custom image for the world, but these are fairly limited. They're just little perk animations of Pip-Boy or the Vault Boy doing different things. So kind of basic when it comes to selecting the world image at the moment. But that's pretty much it. That's how you set everything up. You can scroll through and just double check your settings, but you can always come in and you can update these at any point in time. So keep that in mind. You're not stuck if you create something that you don't like. So let's go ahead and enter this world. As we're doing that, let's make some notes. Custom worlds are essentially a divergent universe from your adventure mode. Your progress towards score will not count inside of your custom world. You will not be able to earn achievements inside of the custom world, and you will not be able to carry over anything that you find from your weapons from your custom world back into adventure mode. So keep those things in mind. You're also not going to be able to earn trophies in this game mode as well, but those are few and far between. So biggest thing is no level progression is independent, and your inventory and all of that stuff, your camps, all of that is independent of each other. You are creating a multiverse inside of Fallout, and once you've entered the world, they are now divergent, and you can reconcile the custom world to match with the regular adventure mode at any point, but you cannot take anything from custom world back into adventure mode. So here we are, we're in my camp. It loaded in exactly as it was in adventure mode, so it will carry over all of your camp builds into the new custom world when you do this. Here's the map. It has everything showing, but I'm pretty sure I had everything discovered already, so it's hard to test this at the moment with this character. I also turned on the infinite ammo, so let's take a look at that and how that's working. I have it set where you still have to reload, but let's go in and find our ammo. This one's using, I think, Ultrasight 45. Yeah. So let's go ahead. We're going to drop every single round of this that we have. Okay. Reload. Oh, look at there. We can reload. We had no ammo in inventory, but yet our gun is never out of ammo. Here's all of this, so you can see that I did actually drop it. So there you go. Infinite ammo does work, and the same with the other settings that will reduce the things like fusion cores and stuff. So you can reduce weight by not carrying all this ammo. Here's a look at the maximum radius for the camp. It is pretty big, much bigger than it is in the regular adventure mode. I also turned on the nuclear height for the camp, so let's build up into the sky and just see how high we can go with that. Okay, we're almost there. There it is. That's the height limit. But we're really far up here, and so that's pretty cool. So you can expand your camp width really, really far. You can also do some really high building, and keep in mind that height also goes underneath the camp. So if you build on a cliff, you can go really, really high with these camp builds. One thing that I did notice is that it did not increase the camp budget very much. And that's disappointing, because in adventure mode, this camp had about 30% of its budget stored, and when I went into the custom world and had it at max settings for the camp, it showed that the 20% was stored. So it's only a 10% increase in camp budget inside of Fallout Worlds at its max settings. So that's disappointing to me. I feel like we should have been able to go crazy with this, especially since the server has a limit of 8 people and we're not going with the full 16 of regular adventure mode. They should have been able to increase that. Hopefully they will do that over time. But we made a few changes. We stored that lion inside of our custom world. Notice he's still here inside of adventure mode. So is this little planter that I stored. So again, multiverse. Once you create your custom world, it imports your character, and they too diverge from there on. Leveling, camp changes, camp movements, anything like that is not going to transfer from one mode to the other, and that seems to be working pretty well as Bethesda intended it with this just little test that I have here. And we'll do a second test. We'll go back. I'm going to go ahead and store this quantum light and go back into the custom world. We'll notice that it has not changed the state of the camp, that our lion is still missing, our plant is still missing, and our quantum light is still in place because we didn't store that inside of our custom world. So we're loading in here. and our roofs are still floating. They were not there in adventure mode. They're outside of where the build would be. Inside of adventure mode, our quantum light is still in its place. So all that is working as intended between both worlds. Now, you do have the ability to reconcile the two worlds. You can pretend you're the TVA and you can put these timelines back in sync with each other, and you can re-import your character from adventure mode into your custom world. Just know that is going to completely wipe any game progress that you have made, any inventory that you have, any weapons that are there. It all goes away. It is replacing it with an exact copy of adventure mode, so any camps that you built would have to be rebuilt unless you are constantly just re-importing to keep things consistent. Just know these two are going to diverge, and that's where the multiverse comes in. And we can see now that I have reverted this one, it is back to being exactly as it was in adventure mode, and my quantum light is missing, just as it was with that change I made in adventure mode. So there we go. So that's it for today's video, everybody. Hopefully that clears up any questions you may have had about custom worlds, how they work, how player progression works within the two different modes now, and also what happens if you re-import a character into the custom world from adventure. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for the latest content from Vladministrator Gaming. Until next time, I'll see you in the Wasteland.